Well, good morning, brothers and sisters. Hope you had a great weekend. Today in our Bible reading plan, we are in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 9. So go ahead and open your Bible, get your journal ready, your cup of coffee, or, well, I've got some Coke Zero today, whatever you want to drink, and let's look into this chapter. The verses that caught my attention were at the end of the chapter. When it says in verse 37, Jesus said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore beseech the Lord of the harvest to send out workers into his harvest." We know that a growing percentage of the population in America are not followers of Christ. That's not true everywhere in the world, but it is in America. In fact, you may not know this, but Christianity is growing fastest in sub-Saharan Africa today. Some researchers estimate that by the year 2030, there's likely to be more followers of Jesus in China than in America. Man, let that sink in for a moment. But why then? Why is it that so many people in America are lost? Why is the harvest so large? Well, there are a lot of reasons we could give, but there are two that kind of stand out to me from this chapter and some of the things Jesus said. And one of those is that many of us who are followers of Christ and are very active in church and think of ourselves as dedicated Christians simply do not have many friendships, relationships with people who don't know Jesus. In fact, too often we look at them askew. We look at them negatively and don't want to hang out with them, don't want to do anything with them. In chapter 9, after Matthew, who was a tax collector and considered a bad guy, a bad person by most of the people in his culture, after his name was Levi, and then Matthew, became a follower of Jesus. Jesus is at his house eating a meal not only with Matthew, but with Matthew's friends who were other sinners and tax collectors in Matthew chapter 9. Verses 10 and following. So here's all these sinners and tax collectors in Matthew or Levi's house, and Jesus and his disciples are eating with them, and the Pharisees, the really dedicated religious people, in verse 11 saw this, and they said to his disciples, "Why? Why is your teacher, why is Jesus eating with the tax collectors and sinners?" It's like we sometimes, what do you want to be friends with that person? And so we isolate ourselves. It's often been said, and quite often is true, that the longer you're saved and the longer you're in church, the fewer people who are lost and going to hell you know. That's one of the reasons so many people in America are lost today is we arm's length. We don't want anything to do with them. Notice Jesus' response to the Pharisees, because this points to the second reason I think so many people in America today are lost. In verse 12, we're told, when Jesus heard this, he said, "It is not those who are healthy who need a physician, but those who are sick." Those who are lost need us. They need Jesus. Verse 13, Jesus said, "But go and learn what this means. I desire compassion and not sacrifice." And then Jesus said, "For I did not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Jesus came for sinners. And he quoted Hosea when he said, "You need to go and figure out what God meant when he said through the prophet Hosea, the thing I want from you more than all your religious rituals and all your religious activity and all your religious sacrifice, the thing I want from you is compassion." And we see that very thing illustrated in the life of Jesus, because later in chapter 9, starting at verse 35, Jesus was going through all the cities and villages, teaching in their synagogues and proclaiming the gospel of the kingdom, healing every kind of disease and every kind of sickness. Now notice this in verse 36. and seeing the people, the crowd, that harvest, he felt compassion for them. He felt compassion for them. What do you feel when you see lost people? Compassion or disdain? Sorrow at their lostness and love for them in their soul? Or animosity? What do you feel? One of the reasons there's so many lost people is that too many followers of Jesus feel no compassion for the people in the city of Rock Hill and in America who are lost and living in sin. We just stay at arm's length. I don't like you. Stay away. And we feel no compassion, and therefore we do nothing to share Jesus with them. Other than if we do share Jesus, is shouting Jesus at them. Shouting, calling them sinners, and you need to get saved, and feeling no compassion. Until you learn how to love lost people, you will never be a person God can use to make a difference in a lost person's life. Will you pray that God grow some compassion and love in you today for those who are royally messed up and lost as they can be? Because that's Jesus. That's Jesus. And you and I, as we grow, are to be more like Jesus. You are not spiritually growing unless you're becoming more like Jesus. And when you become more like Jesus, you're going to have compassion for hurting and lost people. I'll see you tomorrow.